Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining the Cloudflare New Products Summary webinar. We'll get started in just a few seconds. Just let a few last people join. Great. So my name is David Fenton. I'm the Regional Sales Manager based in Sydney, Australia for Cloudflare. And thank you very much for joining our Cloudflare New Product Summary webinar. Thought it would be useful today to just go through some of the recent Cloudflare product launches. We seem to have done a lot of new products recently, so thought we'd do a quick summary of them and let you know what they're called and what they can do, and hopefully how they can help you in certain situations. It'll be reasonably quick run through of these, but obviously we'll give you our contact details and we would be more than happy to explain in more detail anytime you wish on these products. So, quick agenda. We'll do some introductions. We'll do what's new at Cloudflare, an overview of new and upcoming product releases, some new feature updates and entitlements, and then some quick Q&A at the end. So as I mentioned, my name is David Fenton. I'm the Regional Sales Manager based in Sydney. I cover Australia and New Zealand. And our head office for the Asia Pacific region is out of Singapore. And with me today, we have Derek Yee, who is dialing in from San Francisco. He's our Director of Product Marketing for Cloudflare.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you, Derek. So, with some quick housekeeping rules for today's webinar, there should be a chat box, I believe, in the bottom left of the Ready Talk box. You can ask any questions in there, and we'll go through those at the end of the presentation. And hopefully we'll be able to answer as many of those as possible. And if not, we will definitely come back to you with answers for them in the future. We will be emailing the slides and the recording to everybody who's registered. So you don't need to take copious notes or anything. We'll send it through to you and you can go through the slides at your leisure. All attendees will be muted. So please do ask your questions in the chat box and we'll definitely get to them at the end. So with that, we'll go into a quick poll question here, just to discover who on the line is actually a Cloudflare customer. I mean, obviously you've all heard of us. You're obviously getting our marketing material and you've been kind enough to join our webinar, but are you on a free plan, a self-serve pro plan? Are you an enterprise customer, or you're not a customer at all yet? So I'll give you just a few seconds to answer that question first. That would be great. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, I think we've got a fair few of the answers come through now, and it looks like a nice mix of different types of people on the call today. So that should make for some interesting questions at the end, and hopefully you can all learn a little bit about the new product today that we're going into. So I'm just going to cover one more slide very quickly, which is kind of the global network expansion piece. So as you know, or as you hopefully know, our network is very reliant on being a large, resilient Anycast network. So we now have 151, as we say, POPs, or small data centers around the world. We have a lot more planned to come this year. We did a massive expansion through March, and we're going to do a lot more this year, including a few down in Oceania region, Australia and New Zealand, a lot up through Southeast Asia, and then a lot more scattered all over the world. So we are growing the network at a massive rate, and it's been a pretty exciting journey to be on, to see the number of POPs coming up in different countries, different regions, and putting live traffic through them. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Derek, who's going to actually go through in detail some of the product pieces and some of the new features, etc., that we've launched and are launching soon. Thank you very much. Over to you, Derek.
Yeah, thanks, David. Actually, so before we actually jump into that, I thought it was worth mentioning we launched a new DNS resolver service back in April, a service called 1.1.1.1. We've actually seen some tremendous uptick, and basically anyone, including everyone that's on this call today, can simply go into either their laptop or their devices. If you look at how your DNS resolver is actually configured and set up through your ISP, it's default to whatever's on your phone or to the device. And we're actually encouraging customers to actually look at changing that to 1.1.1. It's a privacy-first DNS resolver, and it's fast. What many people don't know is that a lot of your public service providers, they actually cull and they sell a lot of information. So we don't do any of that as far as Cloudflare. We're looking to ensure that people have fast, secure services. So if you haven't looked at this before, we definitely encourage everyone on this call, if you go to 1.1.1.1.com, and you'll actually find some more information about this particular DNS service. So definitely check that out either after we get done this webinar today. All right, so we're going to move into sort of the new and upcoming product releases. And in fact, some of these have already launched, and a couple of these we're probably very close to making them generally available for all customers. So I know there were quite a few people on this webinar today that are not Cloudflare customers. So I think it's a good level set. What is Cloudflare? We often get asked that question, and it's pretty simple. We are a security and performance services company. And when you look at our portfolio, we do everything from DDoS protection, we make the web faster. And in today's webinar, from a security perspective, there are 3 products that we're going to talk about. One is Cloudflare Access, Argo Tunnel, and Spectrum. And we'll get into details when we get to those slides, and I'll cover some more information about that. But on the performance side of the house, I've got 4 products that we're going to showcase today. So there's things we obviously do to make the internet run better as far as improving the performance of web applications. But what we've launched within the past 6 months, number one, is something that's geared specifically towards mobile application performance, and that's the Mobile SDK. We launched Cloudflare Workers back in March, which is a JavaScript that actually runs on Cloudflare's edge. And then we've got 2 video products that we'll talk a little about. One's called Cloudflare Stream, and then as an extension to our core CDN product, something specifically built called Video CDN. So that's sort of a context of sort of what we're going to be showcasing today as far as the new products we're going to talk about. So why don't we start with Cloudflare Access. And so Cloudflare Access is able to provide secure application access. So as I'm sure many of the people on this call today, myself included, I've worked for software companies before where they built VPN for remote access capabilities. And VPNs historically have been very cumbersome. It's a lot of technical debt to have to maintain. And like everything we do at Cloudflare, it's about taking things that are complicated and making it easier and more widely available. So when you look at everything that's happening on the web, what can we do as far as simplifying how you would secure access? So without having to use a VPN, we're able to provide some simple controls that reside on Cloudflare when someone's connecting to a website, where we can link in to existing identity providers to provide authentication to actually validate that that person is who in fact they say they are. And I've got a demo that I'll actually pull up and I'll show you how this comes together. So let me do a quick screen share. Okay, you guys should be able to see my screen. All right. So what we're looking at here, we've got a demo that's set up called Access Demo running on the burritobot.com. We simply type in the application name. We can choose to build in any specific audience tags if we need to. And down here, we can actually select how long do we want this session authentication to last. So once someone's logged in once, you want to keep for 6 months or 6 hours, 24 hours. We can even revoke any existing access tokens that are out there. In this particular demo example, we're going to select anyone that has a cloudflare.com email address, and we can even do specific groupings. So like, for example, if I wanted to be able to assign everyone that's on the sales team to either allow access or deny access, we can get that additional granular level by being able to build that into sort of the access. So I save that. Now when I go to accessdemo.theburritobot.com, it takes us to a page where we now select what's the provider that we're going to use. So in this case, since we're all on G Suite, I'm going to type in Google, then I'll put in my email address, log in. So once that's in place, two-factor authentication kicks in. Once I enter my second validation or authentication code, boom, we're now actually logged in very simply and very quickly into Cloudflare Access. So there's the actual demo page that's completely web-enabled, and we're providing access at the front end when someone comes in, where we're able to check and see who they are, linking to an existing IDP to then provide that connection service. All right, so let's go back to the slides we've got. Okay, David, keep me honest. Are we back on the Cloudflare Access screen?
We are indeed, yep.
Great, okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Argo Tunnel. So Argo Tunnel is almost an extension. I don't know how many of us on this call are familiar with Argo Smart Routing. So the name Argo Tunnel, it's meant to provide a secure encrypted tunnel between the origin server and the Cloudflare edge. So this actually eliminates the potential for any of your server IP addresses ever getting exposed to the internet. So in case anyone wants to launch a DDoS attack and they're able to detect what your actual server IP address is, by having Argo Tunnel enables a secure tunnel between your origin infrastructure and to the Cloudflare edge infrastructure. And as part of being with Argo Smart Routing, we're able to also provide acceleration for any of that traffic that is being parsed over layer 3, layer 4 through Argo Tunnel. Argo Tunnel is part of Argo Smart Routing, so if you're already an Argo Smart Routing customer, you'll actually get Argo Tunnel included as part of that service. Next, we're going to talk about Cloudflare Spectrum. So Cloudflare Spectrum is an ability to be able to handle non-HTTP, HTTPS, TCP traffic through Cloudflare. So if you wanted to be able to funnel your SMTP traffic or SSH and actually have that run securely or encrypted through Cloudflare's infrastructure, we are now able to support that. So we can open up all ports except port 80 and port 21, and this allows that traffic, any TCP-based protocol traffic, to now be parsed along Cloudflare's infrastructure, and it would be able to extend some of the use cases as far as the types of applications that we're able to support. Now I've got a demo for this one. It's pretty quick. Let me switch screens again. You should be able to see my screen. Okay, so what I'm doing is I've got a demo application that's being built through Spectrum. Assign it to port 22. I'm going to specify the IP address where I have the application stored is actually on DigitalOcean. Again, specify port 22. We can determine if it defaults to IPv6, but we can also set it up for an IPv4 address. And we even have the option of specifying if we want to enable TLS. either flexible, in this case we'll leave it off, allocate whether we want this to run through the IP firewall. I'm going to go ahead and click Add to actually save this. So again, keep in mind, this is an application that's set up in DigitalOcean. Now we see it show up here in the Cloudflare dashboard. If I go to my DNS settings and I scroll down, we'll actually find it now listed as a Spectrum application at demo.theburritobot.com. So when I type in that URL, if you actually look and see when I do a shell command to run through here, here is the actual IP address of Cloudflare. So now we see that application, which was set up on DigitalOcean, is now being ported directly and being serviced through Cloudflare on the ports that we had allocated. And kill that. Okay, so that's Cloudflare Spectrum. Now the other things we're going to talk to is going to move into sort of the performance portfolio. And we'll talk about, first of all, Cloudflare's mobile SDK. So back in March, we launched the mobile SDK. So the problem we see customers having today is for mobile applications, there's things we can obviously do to help optimize how certain content gets delivered to mobile devices over the web. But at the end of the day, when we look at what are some of the main reasons and causes for poor mobile application performance, number one and big on the list is the fact that the actual network or the mobile carrier network is something that we have very little control over. Depending on how congested or inconsistent it is ultimately going to affect the application experience. And mobile applications are getting more complex and forcing more and more network calls, which are actually causing more issues when it comes to the applications being displayed on these mobile devices. So with the mobile SDK we launched back in March, we actually came out originally with, first and foremost, something called a network metrics mode option. So any of you that's on this call today, if you're investing time in building a mobile application, can deploy the SDK for free and actually able to sort of glean some metrics and tools to understand how your mobile application is performing under specific network conditions. And again, this is a free tool that's available, allows you to segment users and understand how it operates in different geographies, and there's no obligation for you to have to purchase any additional cloud or any other Cloudflare services to be able to get continued access to these metrics. Now what we've recently launched is an acceleration protocol that provides end-to-end optimization. So you can upgrade the SDK on a paid plan that includes ASAP. ASAP is a secure acceleration protocol, and when used in conjunction with the rest of Cloudflare, you really get sort of the end-to-end value of not only one, providing acceleration for mobile application traffic across your cellular networks, but once it hits the Cloudflare edge, everything Cloudflare does, say from Argo to caching, CDN, all the additional capabilities that we provide on our network, really help accentuate the performance and optimize performance for those mobile application users. All right, the next thing we'll talk about is what's called Cloudflare Workers. Now, this was actually an exciting product that we launched back in March, and it's really outside of what everything you would think you know about Cloudflare. Cloudflare Workers really is about the ability to run complex business logic at the edge. And when I say at the edge, I mean on Cloudflare's 150-plus data centers worldwide. So in other words, you can write a simple JavaScript that sits on the edge of Cloudflare. For all your inbound traffic, there's a number of things that you're able to do with that worker. It's able to determine, one, where that request is coming from, identify the IP address, and you can make decisions on what we actually want that worker to do. We have had some customers where they want to be able to minimize a lot of the loads that their origin traffic is having to handle because they're having to build up more servers and paying for more cloud capacity. Well, if I have a worker that's able to discern, do I let this particular request through, it can actually check certain criteria, and they're able to eliminate a lot of excess traffic that doesn't need to hit their server simply by running a worker that lives on the Cloudflare edge. Some other examples as far as use cases and what you can do with workers because number one, we can actually deliver a personalized user experience based on what we know about the user, what type of device they're connecting from, where are they connecting from, and actually serve up content from cache or directly from the origin, depending on what it is that we know about that user. We can do simplified A/B testing, where we can serve up multiple versions of a specific file from cache using a just simple randomization engine as part of the worker. Detect bot activities, aggregating API responses, identifying users at the edge. We've actually got tons of recipes, and if you go to developers.cloudflare.com and look under workers, there are actually pre-scripted recipe templates that are already in place that allows you to simply implement those recipes to do certain things like A/B testing or some of the things that we've talked about today. And I do have a demo. I'll show you. Let me switch over screens again. All right. So the demo I want to show here, so I've got a site, burritobot.com, and I'm going to run this through. This is living on Cloudflare right now. We actually want to have an alternate version of this site go to hamburger.theburritobot.com. So when someone accesses that page, I want to be able to take the same HTML page that we've got and make some alteration to it where it'll show the hamburger instead. So here I'm in the editor for workers, and I can see I've got all the scripting that's in place right now. I'm going to clear this out, and we've got some pre-configured scripts that I'm going to put it in here, and we'll kind of walk through what we're doing. So we've got the new script. We're going to name it HAMBURGERBOT. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and I'm going to go down here to where it shows where we're routing it. So I'm going to add the route, and this is going to be for hamburgertheburritobot.com. I'm going to select that script we just entered for hamburger.bot, save it, and when I execute, so in here we're going to go ahead and type in hamburger. I believe that should be down here. Run to this URL, and boom. So instead of seeing the burrito bot, when I go to hamburger.theburritobot.com, it automatically says hamburger instead of burrito. And what we did is we didn't really have to request a new HTML page. It's the same page that we already had in cache, but we've applied logic so when someone goes to the hamburger.theburritobot.com, we're actually able to change or personalize that setting based on the script that we have being managed through workers. All right. Okay, so that was Cloudflare Workers. Now, the next one we're talking about is video. So for many of you that follow Cloudflare, I believe it was last year we talked during birthday week, we announced, okay, so we're going to handle video, and we're going to launch a product called Cloudflare Stream. So what we've learned since then, and the next slide will show, there are two ways that we're providing a solution or a service for handling video today. Cloudflare Stream is an all-in-one sort of video in a box type solution. So for any of you that have looked at how do we do video, in other words, I want to be able to take a raw video file that we have, and the end game, we want to be able to easily distribute that to our users as a part of our application or web presence. So not only one, do we need to figure out where am I going to store it, what specific type of encoding or transcoding do I apply to that video file for distribution purposes, what CDN am I going to use to be able to get it there really quickly, and then the type of player. I have to go then build a player to be able to play this video file that we've put through this whole process and get any sort of preliminary analytics around consumption. So we looked at all those parts and pieces where at the end of the day we found customers only wanted to be able, hey, I just want to be able to take a video file, upload it, and then just embed the code into my application and not have to worry about all that other stuff that we just sort of highlighted there. So that's where Cloudflare Streams video in a box becomes really sort of the best option that simplifies that process for video. If you've got users that are already doing something with video and they're just looking for a high-performance, economical way to deliver video, Cloudflare can help with just that piece, just with the distribution or delivery piece of this using Video CDN. So when I look at video CDN, what are the things that we really call out that's useful is, number one, we have a fast global network. And when we talked about at the beginning of this call, 151 plus data centers and growing. So we can leverage that to be able to provide a fast network for delivering video content to users globally. Also, we provide highly optimized services like tiered caching, cache configuration, along with everything we do from a security standpoint to be able to provide the best value in how we deliver video. And again, Cloudflare is known for providing sort of that flat rate pricing. So for those of you that are on an enterprise contract or even self-serve, I mean, you really have just sort of a flat expected bill as to what you're going to be paying for video. So that's the video CDN. When we talk about Cloudflare Stream, again, it's a one-stop shop, video in the box that provides all of these services. And the way we've built it out is we don't care. You're not going to have to worry about what am I going to use to encode. We always provide that all bundled in as part of Cloudflare Stream, and it's priced accordingly based on the number of minutes that the video actually gets watched by your users. If you've got a whole lot of video files that you put up there, we do per-minute billing is how we charge, and the storage is included as a part of that cost as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch. I'll show you a quick walkthrough on the dashboard for a video on Stream. So let me switch the panel here. Okay, so I'm in the Cloudflare dashboard, and we're looking at Cloudflare Stream. So I'm going to drag a file over. There's an MP4 or an MOV file that we're trying to upload. So we simply put into the dashboard. It's doing everything in the background as far as decoding, encoding the file that's going to be needed for distribution. Going through the final process, and then when it's done, and again, it's a fairly quick process. Once the video file has been uploaded, we have additional format options that we can do on the right as far as, do you want to embed it? Do you want to just get a link? So if I choose get link, I can use that, and that's what we can use for distribution purposes. Or for embed code, once that gets put into our HTML file, we can pre-build certain options. Do you want the video to automatically play? Do you want it to loop, or just have it mute on default? And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just delete that video file that we uploaded. And that's Stream. There's really not a whole lot more to demo aside from just the process of just uploading, drag and drop, and it really simplifies like the process it takes to implement video into your applications. And that's it. So those are sort of the main key products that we wanted to talk about today as part of the recently launched or upcoming launches when it comes to our performance and security portfolio. So now we're going to look at some of the additional features that we've got launched recently. So let's see if I can switch over to the next slide. So I know there are some enterprise customers on the call today. So what we're going to talk about as far as what has been recently added, an improved log files. So with new audit logs, you can show evidence of any changes that have made either to your DNS or WAF settings. These audit logs are available across all accounts, and it can be exported into like a CSV file format, and they can also be filtered when you're reviewing them in the dashboard, either by individual user or by specific domain names. The next thing we have is something called auto-tiered caching. So Cloudflare can actually leverage its Tier 1 data centers to be able to cache any content that the request would normally have had to go to your origin server to be served up. So in this case, if someone's connecting closer to a Tier 2 Cloudflare data center, instead of making that request back to your origin, it'll actually go to our Tier 1 data center where it's being cached to then serve that up. So that actually saves a number of trips and bandwidth going back to your origin by leveraging tiered caching. Next up, we have what are called cache control headers. And cache control headers are enabled as part of page rules. And this provides really sort of extensible logic on how content from the origin gets handle. So you can put in certain rules that will dictate either cacheability, how long is the file to be cached for, and setting expiration date, or even to force revalidation before serving up the content again. Next, we've got GeoKey Manager. So GeoKey Manager is when you're uploading a custom SSL certificate, you can designate where do you want those certs to be stored. So for example, do you want it to be only stored in a US or European data center, or do you want it to go to the most high secure Cloudflare data centers that exist? Those are all options when you're uploading your cert that you can specify. And then the last couple we've got, one is called Zone Lockdown, which is a custom WAF rule that allows you to specify a range of allowable IP addresses that can access a specific domain or subdomain. So for example, if you have certain pages that can only be accessed in the office, then you will specify a range of IP addresses that exist in that location, so only those will be able to connect to that specific page or content. And similarly, user agent blocking, so UA rules can be specified that will actually match the UA request header that's sent by the browser or application, and these get applied across the entire domain. So then these rules will be set up with specific actions that can either block, it can challenge with a capture challenge, or even specify like a JS challenge. So these are all the sort of the new features that have been added for enterprise customers today. And the last actually update I want to talk about is around Cloudflare load balancing. So now Cloudflare load balancing was launched last year, back in 2017, and the team has really been progressively building and adding a lot of new features, functionalities to help improve upon the service. And the first one we launched is something called configurable weighting, which allows you to allocate sort of a percentage of traffic that can be directed to specific pools of origin. So for example, if there's a certain origin that either has more capacity or lower egress costs, you can specify a percentage of how much of your inbound traffic do you want to go to that origin versus to another alternate origin, so to speak. Oh, sorry, I didn't flip the slides there. Okay, and then event logs is the other one. So with event logs, these are available to all load balancing customers, and it actually stores this for up to 30 days. And the logs will show any status changes to your origin and how they affect your pool. So for example, if a status change on the origin goes from healthy to critical or critical to healthy, a log event gets automatically generated. So now you can go for each of your origin servers that are being load balanced and actually get a constant running event log of all the status changes that take place within those origins. And then last but not least is session affinity. So we now support sticky sessions that can be supported with Cloudflare load balancing. So a cookie gets generated and it's allocated to a specific user, and it's mapped to that specific origin that that user is connected to within that session. So this way, when a user is connecting and if they leave and they come back again, we can automatically detect and reroute them back to the server, where if they were building up or had any content that they were working on, that they don't lose any of that by having to restart the session somewhere else on a new origin. And that's it for Cloudflare load balancing. And I think at this point, David, I'll turn it to you as far as you want to kind of introduce the team that's here to service these customers if they have any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Derek. That was excellent. And yeah, so that's the team that's based in Australia at the moment. So we have actually added a headcount to this since we did the slide decks. We now also have Nicholas Toulson, based out of Sydney. So there's now myself, Nick, Manu, and Naveen, based out of Sydney, and we have Tim, who's based out of our Melbourne location at the moment. And hopefully we'll be expanding that soon. And I apologize to Nick for not adding him there. I will go quickly to the last slide. And for those of you who are not based in Australia and New Zealand as well, please feel free to use the anzsales@cloudflare.com email address if you have any questions or just want to send any comments through, and we'll make sure they get routed to the relevant person in your territory. We have people throughout Asia, Southeast Asia, India, North Asia, China, Singapore, obviously. So we'll make sure that the person comes back to you, either a solutions engineer for your technical questions or a sales commercial person for those questions. Excellent. So we do have a couple of questions have come in. So if you're okay, Derek, I'll read some of those out, and most of them are probably going to hopefully be for you.
Yeah, I was kind of scanning the questions that they submitted, and there were some of them are very technical, product-oriented questions. So I think what we should do with these, David, we can reroute them to the technical resources on our end, and we can reply to those attendees that have asked those questions, because there's some things here that I'm actually not sure the answers on.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, we'll write those to a solution engineer, and somebody in your region will come back to you as quickly as possible on those. I will mention just, James Lowe asked a question on peering with networks like Optus and Telstra within Australia. I will say there's been no significant change on that. We do still definitely talk to Optus and Telstra, and we negotiate our traffic costs and everything with those guys. Generally, the comment is we would still like to peer with them, and if you have an account manager or anything in them, please feel free to mention they should talk about peering with us. We're the largest peered CDN, I believe, in the world. Certainly, we have a massive amount of peering agreements. But yeah, nothing overly newsworthy on the Optus Telstra front for Australia and New Zealand, unfortunately. And yes, the rest of them do look, yeah, definitely rather in-depth questions. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll get somebody to be in touch, and hopefully we can expand on those answers with you as well in more detail. Excellent. So with that, I think we can give you a little bit of your Tuesday afternoon, certainly in Sydney, back. And thank you very much to Derek for presenting this in your evening time. And yeah, thank you all for attending, and hopefully we shall be in touch soon, and we'll have some in-depth discussions and live demonstrations for you.
Great. Thanks all. Thanks, David.
Thank you.